Hello, and welcome back to Asian Post. I'm your host, Shivangni Naiker, and we are broadcasting from the traditional unceded territories of the Kwantlen, Silvertooth, and Squamish Nation. Looks like summer is finally here. If you are going out in the sun, make sure to apply sunscreen lotion with SPF 30 or more. Reapply it as many times as you need as you're going to be in direct sunlight. Last year, during the heat doom, over 600 seniors died. So if you know any seniors living alone, always call and check up on them and make sure they are fine about the warmth in their homes. We'll be right back from these words from our sponsors.
I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada Incorporated. I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada.
For astrology service, life horoscope, and fortune telling, marriage problem, love problem, divorce problem, money problem, personal or business, all types of puja and havan. Call Pandit Lakshminath Guruji 1604-849-4872, serving Alberta and BC.
If you would like your business to be profiled on our show, let us know at minimum cost. We'll be able to highlight your business. In our studio, we have Suki Dillal, a teacher who is here to chat about the Canada Day celebration and if we should be celebrating it or not. Have a look.
Hello and welcome to Asian Pulse. So I hope you had a wonderful long weekend last week. It was a long weekend. It's Canada's 155th birthday, and we all went out to celebrate that. So today, it's already a week behind when we record the shows and when the show goes in the air. So my guest today is Suki Dillal. She is an activist of Indigenous community. She is a teacher. She's an advocate and so many other hats she wears. But today we're going to be talking about Canada Day and Canada as a whole, as a country. So with that, let's introduce Suki Dillal. Welcome, G. Thank you so much for taking your time, be able to come to our studios, and you have been here before. I really enjoy talking to you. So just talk a little bit about how are you today?
Thank you, Kamilaji. First of all, you're doing a wonderful work in the community to connect, and not just the Indian, Fijian community, Punjabi community, Hindi community, but also talking about the community, the larger world that we are living in Canada. And as we were having a conversation before, that we, in our conversation, in our Canada Day celebrations, celebration of cultures, multiculturalism, we are neglecting the Indigenous people. Mm-hmm. I know that in the past, many European settlers and scholars had used the word Aboriginal, and it really has taken away the meaning of Indigenous. Aboriginal really means it can be that our grandparents, our grandchildren may become Aboriginal, that original people. But the Indigenous means they are connected to the land.
Yes.
So for example, in India, we are all the natives. We are the Aboriginal. Mm-hmm. But really we are not the Indigenous. Even in India, the Indigenous people were the very first people that, historically were, given other names that in the lowest on the caste system. Mm-hmm. But in Canada, the Indigenous people are the first people that came here from wherever, from Siberia through the ice bridge, and they have been here for thousands of years.
Yes.
So in the celebration of Canada Day, this Canada Day is the day the Europeans created according to the Constitution. that
Yeah.
this is the day different provinces, territories, they became one
Yeah.
as Canada. So it gives me great pleasure to talk to our community through your medium, through you that you have invited, feeling that we all need to become aware of Indigenous peoples. And there are many reasons why they were hidden, in a sense, from us.
What you said is so important, though, because we all immigrants coming in here, and we are given red carpet to work on. Soon as you get off the airport,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of organizations for settlement, integration, education, ESL, finding housing, and getting your kids in the school and all that. So all these things that we feel, oh, Canada is such a great country to welcome immigrants, and we all come and enjoy the land that we are on. But what we are forgetting is the Aboriginal, the first people of the land. Actually, the white people did not invite me to Canada. I will openly say that. The people that I appreciate, the land that I am on, is Indigenous land. And where are the Indigenous land? Are we giving enough respect to the first people of this land?
I think that the first people of land were the whole process started from the French and the British.
Yes.
In the beginning, was that they were put in reservations. So when I usually teach grade 3s and 4s, that's when we start talking in more detail about Indigenous people, is that the word reservation. And when I ask students what does the word reserve mean, they often tell, when we go to the theater or we go on the plane, you reserve a seat.
Yeah.
However, the word reserve was used, and it still is used, to actually have treaties which were not, in all honesty, done with the Indigenous people, different tribes, that we are going to protect you, we will give you the health, we will give you some money, but you give this 10 acres of land to us, for example, but you must stay on this 1 acre of land.
The reserve.
The reserve.
We call that reserve.
And that has, to some extent, hidden the first peoples, their visibility to all the immigrants. That, along with the education system, that it wasn't 20, maybe 30 years ago, that in universities, when we became teachers, that how much we were to learn about the Indigenous history. It was an optional subject. I was interested, so I had taken many courses and learned about the horrible history. And so the social and economic impact that the Canadian growth had on Indigenous people was limited. And along with putting them on a reserve, the second thing was that introduction of alcohol and variety of diseases, and that decimated, that reduced the population in so many tribes. I have seen some towns, for example, right here in BC, that at one time there were less than 100 people of this tribe who were alive. And things are changing, but it comes back to your point that as immigrants, how do we learn more about the history of Indigenous people and how we can welcome them into our communities. And we go out and reach out to Indigenous people, Indigenous elders. So my wish is that as you have been serving our community for how many years, I know that at least I have known you for 20 years, and perhaps you could also bring an elder from
Yeah.
Indigenous community.
So we, time to time, we do that.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So we bring them and we talk about the oppression, we talk about purpose, we talk about healing, we talk about a lot of things. Another thing that while you were talking came to my mind was, you know how that you take 1 acre of land and you give us 9 so that we all can spread ourselves and enjoy these 9 acres, and you can only stay there, give you some booze and all that.
Right.
And then your children are also taken away because they do not, and that's another topic for another day. And when they said, oh, these indigenous people, they are the alcoholic and drug users and drunks, and they don't work, they don't earn money, they are downtown east side and all that. So this label has been put on there, but who is responsible for doing that? Not them, us. We take blame for that. We take responsibility. I know it's been done before my time, but I think by not being able to support Indigenous people, we are part of the problem, become the part of the problem too, part of the oppression to Indigenous people.
Absolutely, Kamilaji, and as again I say, you have been out with your voice against all oppressions in the South Asian community. And I think I appreciate that we need, it's been done before us.
Yeah.
Our ancestors, like my great-grandparents came here,
Yeah.
and they got the right to vote
Yes.
before the Indigenous people
Yeah,
got.
yeah.
Women got the
To
right to
vote
vote
before.
before Indigenous people got
I think
the
they
right.
got voting rights in 1969, if I'm right, or
Yes,
1960.
it was in that decade.
Yeah, yeah.
It was in that decade. But you raised quite a few issues. One was the residential schools. And when in Kamloops, Indigenous people have been saying that
And
since the 50s, since the early 1900s, to the government, to the world,
yeah.
that our children disappeared.
Yep.
Where did they go?
They never came back home.
And never came back, and the stories and that trauma. And then in the 60s, called 60s scoop, children taken away because the parents are not good parents.
Yes.
Because of alcohol and other things, that they don't know how to raise children
Yeah.
according to the Western system.
Yep.
And that was at the bottom of that. But just recently, when in Kamloops, the children's skeletons, unfortunately, were found.
Yeah.
Few of us teachers, we got together and we made blankets, because blankets and feathers hold so much, I guess, symbolism and comfort and kindness and courage in Indigenous communities. We donated, because of COVID, we couldn't go to Kamloops, but we donated to our Indigenous daycare here in Vancouver. So we all can begin to do new gestures.
Yes.
And to even those stereotypes you mentioned, that Indigenous people are like that, Indigenous people are like that. My immigrant experience, my very first job was in a care home as a dishwasher when I was beginning my university. And again, it's not just one immigrant community, it's all immigrant communities that have that perception fed by many factors. And the lady who was my colleague, my co-worker, dishwasher, another dishwasher, she mentioned bluntly that, "Are you Indian?" And I said yes, assuming that I am from India and I'm Indian. And she said, "No, no, no, you're not Indian. Indian drunk people on the street," in her broken English.
Yeah.
And it was after that I started my university training and reading and research. But that never gets out of my head, that it's not just one immigrant group, it's a majority of immigrant groups, because I think, Kamilaji, that when we education system, that's one thing, but the second one is not immigrants who come as teenagers, as adults. Of course, there is internet, and you can find
So much
information,
on-
so
yeah.
much. However, it is not something that new immigrants are going to say, "Yes, I want to know."
Yeah.
There is no prerequisite, there is no requirement for people who come, and even now will continue to come as immigrants, that they must learn about Indigenous peoples' history,
Yes.
even a small chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that. And also, let's talk a little bit about the celebration of Canada Day. Everybody went out in troops to go down to Canada Place and have fun and celebration of in Canada Day, because Canada we did not celebrate, or people didn't celebrate for last 2 years due to the pandemic. So now this is the first year there is no pandemic and everything is opening up, fireworks, lots of fun and all that. I refuse to go to. There is nothing to celebrate for Canada's 155th day, because I only gonna go and celebrate when I see the first people of this land, the people that welcome. I will celebrate that. Otherwise, I refuse to go and celebrate. There's nothing, to me, there is nothing to celebrate. On that day, people wear red. I wear orange on that day, and I'm still wearing orange. There is a significance meaning of orange. This is the color of the Aboriginal or the Indigenous community. So I need, as an immigrant, I need to support that. And I think at the same time, I have this dialogue all the time with my children, my family, my friends, and they say, "Oh, where is that happening? Where is that?" I say, there is a lot of things happening, but there was a big thing that I found happen in Victoria, where the mayor of Victoria, and they had pow-pows, and they had a beautiful ceremony, and I was so much touched by that.
Yes.
That is kind of an event.
Yeah.
If anybody organizes here, I'll go and attend.
We'll go.
We'll
Yes,
go.
yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and a lot of my Indigenous friends and colleagues have started this Cancel Canada Day,
Yes.
and that is what I am a part of, and understanding that in September we do have the Indigenous Day,
Yes.
which is again
September
justice,
30th,
again
yeah.
exactly, again with the reconciliation.
Yeah.
So I think we are moving towards that, but it perhaps will take another 5-10 years.
Yep.
I am hoping that it shouldn't take that long, that more awareness we continue with the reconciliation, that until leaders of First Nations, First People, the Indigenous communities, because there are hundreds of tribes in Canada, that they have different language, they have different dialects, and that is why we don't want to just connect them, just the natives, just the Indians, just because Columbus thought he had reached India.
Yeah. Because the people look the same.
He we look the same.
And that's what
yeah,
we call India.
Indian, and started calling Indians.
Yeah.
And yet, we have come to understand that our identities, if your ancestors came from India to Fiji, so you feel the pride of being an Indian as well as pride that you have lived in Fiji.
Yes.
And your ancestors you created a different culture, different food, different cuisines.
Yeah.
And now we need to appreciate that.
Right on, yes.
And we need to appreciate the indigenous different cultures as well. That not all indigenous cultures in tribes are eating salmon, or they are not all doing the powwows. There are different dances.
Yes.
And I think the most important, the hurtful feeling that hit the psyche of indigenous people was when they were not powwow, potlatch, where they give the gifts. Gift giving is huge in indigenous communities. It was banned. And of course, children in residential schools, they were not allowed to use their language. And if you read the stories of elders who are alive, who went to those schools, who survived, how they survived. And we need, I agree with you on the big question, should we celebrate Canada Day, or should we all band together, for example, for next year, and see how much progress we can all make? Your audience, my audience, our community, people who are watching your show would contact you, for example, or me, or all, plan something for next year. How can we engage indigenous community from here, locally? And as you said, in Victoria, Victoria's mayor is very, very active with the indigenous communities. I was there last week as well. She is amazing in that sense that she brings indigenous communities together. And I think we are lacking that, especially in the Lower Mainland. And Lower Mainland is huge. It has many Tawasin First Nation, Kwantlen First Nation, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, big one here. Great artists from indigenous communities that are writers that are, my friends, and many elders who are doing great things. So the big message is that what you have given me this opportunity, and you have invited me, and I, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate that we continue this dialogue.
Yes, because we always run out of time when you start sitting and this is not just one day we're gonna teach the history of indigenous people in here and the meaning of Canada Day. But every time before I start the show, I am grateful that we are bringing the show from the indigenous land of Kwantlen, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam Nation. So we have to appreciate the land that has allowed me and us to be able to be broadcasting you, bringing this to you. And with that, I know this is just the surface of what we need to continue talking about that.
Right.
But when I'm looking at the clock, we are almost running out of time. But thank you so much for opening up this can of worm, I would say.
Can of worms,
But
yes.
we're not going to close the worm or the can here.
Right.
We will continue that because there's so much to be talked about.
Yes, and I want to,
Thank you, Sukiji. Have a pen and paper ready because we have some interesting events that you might be interested in today. Canada/USA CALSA X Students Reunion taking place at Balliol Banquet Hall in Surrey on October 1st at 5 p.m. For more information, please call 604-537-5123. Tickets are only $40 per person and all proceeds will be going to the Khalsa College in Ba, Fiji Islands. Pig Society is celebrating their 35th anniversary on September 16th at 6 p.m. at Reflections Banquet Hall in Surrey. All proceeds will be going towards the Guru Nanak Diversity Village. For more information and for tickets, call Pigs at 604-596-7722. Pig Society is holding their 15th annual major job fair on July 28th at North Surrey Sports and Ice Complex from 10 to 3:30 p.m. Address is 10950 126 A Street in Surrey, near Scott Road SkyTrain Station. Bring your resume and hand out your resumes to companies to obtain employment. Overseas voter registration drive will be in USA and Canada. Fiji Trades Commission will be here on July 16th to the 18th. On July 16th between 10 p.m. they'll be at the Central Park in Boundary Road in Burnaby, and on 17th and 18th they'll be in Fiji Canada Hall at 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. For more information, go to www.feo.org.fj. If you would like any events to be promoted on our show, please email us at asianpulse@gmail.com. We are running out of time. I hope you enjoy the show as much as I did bringing it to you. If you would like to be a sponsor or like to promote any event on our show, please contact Camilla Singh at 604-537-5123 or email us at asianpulse@gmail.com. If you missed our show today, you can catch it again on Thursdays at 8:30, Saturdays at 5:30, and on Channel 4 and Channel 10 in Calgary. Thank you for spending the part of the day with us. I'm your host, Shivani Naiker. Stay safe and stay healthy. See you all next week.